Welcome and good afternoon. This is Commish Orr. Today I'm going to give an update. I've finally, after a few weeks off, gotten back to playing some games. Took some time off actually to get the best of the 90s tournament started, or situated, I guess I should say, and also to incorporate players on my other project, the Payoff Pitch project, incorporate players based on the new season card sets that came out. You can watch some videos about those sets and my process for the 90s tournament in other videos. But today I've completed the first four games of the 1990s tournament, the best of the 90s, using season ticket baseball, and thought I'd give a quick recap of those games and show you the tournament bracket and kind of talk about my flow and next steps from here. So, we had two near sweeps, or two pending sweeps, I should say. Remember, these are best of five series, play-in series for the tournament. And the first series was between the 1993 Toronto Blue Jays and the 1994 Chicago White Sox. And in game one, actually, Chicago looked like they were going to win this one as they got out to a 5-1 lead in the bottom of the fifth after they scored 4 runs on Juan Guzman in the bottom of the fifth inning on a couple of RBI singles from Julio Franco and Darren Jackson. For those 4 runs, Darren Jackson had a solo homer in the second to put Chicago on the board to begin with. So they took that 5-1 lead, and Jack McDowell was kind of cruising along until the 8th inning. And in the 8th, you can see John Olerud led off with a single. Roberto Alomar followed that with a triple to score him, cutting the lead down to 5-2 at that point. And Joe Carter grounded out to short, scoring another run, so that was 5-3. And then Paul Molitor doubled to knock McDowell out. Paul Ossenmacher came into the game and struck out Tony Fernandez. It looked like they would get out with not much more damage done, but Devon White actually hit a 2-run homer to tie the game here in the 8th inning, in the top of the 8th. So that sent the game actually at extra innings eventually. And after a 1-2-3 10th for both sides, in the top of the 11th, Jose De Leon actually walked the first two batters he faced, Devon White and Ed Sprague. Pat Borders sacrificed them over to second and third, and then Ricky Henderson singled them both in to give Toronto a 7-5 lead in the 11th inning. Dwayne Ward came in to close things out for Toronto, and he did not have a very easy 11th inning here after walking Ozzie Guillen to lead things off. He did get Tim Raines to fly out, but then Norberto Martin singled there in the 11th inning. Frank Thomas struck out. That made it 2 outs, and then Julio Franco walked to load the bases. And then there was a wild pitch in there that ended up scoring a run. So the White Sox had the tying run on third, the winning run on second, but Robin Ventura actually flew out to end the game. So Toronto takes this one 7-6 in their come from behind win in game one. And again, Devon White 3 for 4 with that home run in the 8th inning, 2-run homer. Gets player of the game honors in this one. In the second game, it was all Toronto from the start. Ricky Henderson actually led off the game with a homer and then hit another homer in the 4th inning, a 2-run shot in the 4th inning off of Alex Fernandez. And Toronto scored 5 runs, two in the first and 3 in the second. Joe Carter had a home run there in the first as well. And Fernandez only lasted 4 innings in this one, allowing 9 hits, 7 earned runs. Meanwhile, was just cruised through this one. 7 innings, only allowed 5 hits. He did walk 4, but only allowed 1 run, and that was in the second inning. Lance Johnson RBI single. So, again, all Toronto in this one. Now, Kirk McCaskill and Scott Sanderson came in and finished the last 5 innings of this game, holding Toronto to no runs in the last 5 innings. But again, the damage was already done by that point. So Toronto actually takes a 2-0 series lead in this best of the 5 series. The series now will head to Toronto, actually. Chicago White Sox had a higher seed, so they had home field advantage here and waste the opportunity losing both of these games in Chicago. And now the series heads to Toronto for 2 games, if they need both, with Toronto only needing to win 1 more game to advance in the series. And we'll take a look at the tournament bracket here in just a moment. Over in the National League, we had the 1999 Arizona Diamondbacks facing the 1990 New York Mets. The Mets having the home field advantage and a higher seed in this one. And Randy Johnson, the big unit, had a rough start in game 1 of this one. He allowed 3 runs in the first and 3 runs in the second. Kevin McReynolds hit a 3-run shot there in the first inning with 2 out, as Johnson almost got out of that one, but not before allowing that home run. And then another 3 runs here in the second with an RBI single from Orlando Mercado, and Greg Jeffries had a 2-run double. That gave New York a 6-1 lead at that point. They had scored a run there in the top of the first when Matt Williams singled in Luis Gonzalez. But Viola actually pitched really well. He had a complete game in this one. Only allowed 2 earned runs, 6 hits as he went the distance in this one. Arizona just couldn't get anything really going on offense. Meanwhile, as I mentioned, Randy Johnson only lasted 5 innings. He did strike out 7 in those 5 innings, but allowed 7 runs on 9 hits. Again, most of that damage done in the first couple of innings. They did score another run in the fourth, but by then that was just an insurance run. So New York takes game 1 in this series. Heading into game 2, which was much closer, once again, Arizona gets out in front with another RBI single from Matt Williams to lead things off in the first inning, this time against Doc Gooden. And Omar Dahl was on the mound for Arizona, and he actually didn't pitch too bad. He did allow a solo homer to Howard Johnson in the second, and back-to-back RBI base hits to Dave Magadan and Greg Jeffries in the third. That gave the Mets the 3-1 lead at that point. Now, the Arizona would cut that lead with, they actually used their base running in this one. As you see, even in the first inning, Luis Gonzalez singled and then stole second. Gooden was not very good at holding runners on base here, and that allowed the base hit by Matt Williams to score Luis Gonzalez in the first. In the sixth, it was Tony Womack who singled and stole second, advanced to third on a grounder from Jay Bell, and then scored on Luis Gonzalez grounder. So once again, without that stolen base, they would not have scored in the sixth inning here either. But they were able to manufacture a couple of runs with their base running here. Womack actually had 2 stolen bases in this game. But Gooden pretty much cruised other than that. Eight innings pitched, only allowed 2 runs on 5 hits. He struck out 5, only walked 1. Omar Dahl, despite getting the loss in this one, did go the complete game, 8 innings, did allow those 3 runs on 7 hits, struck out 8 though. So he did pitch pretty well, just made a couple of mistakes. But unfortunately, those couple of mistakes were the difference here. Franco came in to save this one for New York, and that's his first save of the tournament. And Gooden gets the win as New York takes a 2-0 series lead here, needing only 1 more win to knock out Arizona in the tournament. So if you look at the tournament bracket here, we can see this is a play-in series. So if Toronto can win 1 more, they will face the 1998 New York Yankees in the first round of the tournament. Meanwhile, the 95 Cleveland Indians will face the 1990 Athletics in that first round on the American League side. On the National League side, again, the winner of the Mets and Diamondbacks series will go on to face the 1998 Atlanta Braves, which they're with their dominating pitching staff, pitching rotation, as the 1998 Astros face the 1994 Montreal Expos in that first round in the National League. Now, once we get to this first round, it's again, still best of 5 series, but it's a double elimination tournament, meaning if they lose a series starting here, the loser goes down to the loser's bracket and they have a chance to play back into this tournament. This play-in round, though, the loser of the play-in round is out. They don't have the double elimination of the play-in round. So that's kind of how the tournament is set up. This is the second Best of the Decades tournament, of course. The last one I did was the Best of the 1930s. And so now we're doing the 1990s. I'm not sure which decade will be next, but it is my plan to play each of the decades. And then we'll have an overall Best of tournament with all the decade winners. Of course, that'll be several years from now, real time. But that's the plan anyway. If you are curious, you can head over to baseballmaelstrom.com to follow the action. And this has all my projects on it. This has, if you go to the far right, I did a History Maker baseball tournament with the all-time franchise great sets. I did a big tournament with them. I did my payoff pitch, which I'll talk about here in a second. You can see the best of the 30s, best of the 1930s tournament page. If you click on that, best of the 90s, which is going on right now. If you click on that, you'll go to the best of the 90s page. I do a little write-up on each game so you can follow the action. I have all 4 of those write-ups here waiting for you to read if you'd like to see those. I also have the box scores and score sheets of each of those games. If you click on them, you'll see this stuff that I've kind of been going through. And you can see those things as well. And of course, stats. So every 4 games or so, every week, I'll update the stats. And so if you click on stats, there's not much to see there right now because there's only 4 games played. But you can get to the stats if you click on those stats and see team stats, player stats, league leaders, and all of that fun stuff. I do use ball stat and ball score to keep stats, mostly because it generates web pages, which Digital Diamond does not really do automatically. I did put in that feature request, but as of right now, Digital Diamond does not have an option to generate web pages automatically like that. And so just for time's sake, it's much easier for me to generate this stuff out of ball score and ball stat. Okay, now talking about the Pops League, the Payoff Pitch League that I have going on is the other project, and basically what I'll be doing is switching off week to week. Every week I play about 4 games, so I play 4. So I just played 4 in the Best of the 90s tournament. I will be playing 4 of the Payoff Pitch Season 2 League of the Payoff Pitch Project, and then I just go back and forth. So I always have these 2 projects going on at once, and if you go to the homepage, you can always see, get the latest, the standings and upcoming schedule and scores of the Payoff Pitch League are here on the front page. I do write-ups of those as well. You can get the recaps over here in the sidebar for both of these projects, both of the current projects. And as I said, you can go click on the headers here in the menu to take you to the page for those projects where you'll see stats and that kind of thing. So let me know what you think down below. Who do you think is going to win this tournament, this 1990s tournament? All of these teams seeded by their ELO ratings, by the way, which you can find past videos to where I kind of go into detail about those ratings and where I found them and that kind of thing. But that's how these teams are seeded, and it'd be very interesting to see 1990s era compared to the 1930s era. Let me just talk about that briefly. What I've noticed is stealing is a lot higher Stolen base is a lot higher. Of course, some of these teams are pretty speedy, but I've probably had as many stolen bases in 1 week as I had in most of the 1930s tournament. Again, a lot of those teams in the 1930s just didn't steal a lot of bases. There were some, but these 90s teams, man, some of these are just loaded. I mean, Ricky Henderson, Tim Raines, Tony Womack. You had a lot of like high steal players in here. So, and they've been definitely doing that a lot, especially on teams that have a catcher that doesn't have a greatest arm. I thought that we might have fewer complete games, of course, in the 90s, and we do. The pitchers don't quite go the distance as much as their 1930s counterparts, of course, where complete games were much more common. But it's not terrible, actually. We still had a decent number of complete games even in the 90s. Of course, the more modern decades won't have that at all, or very rarely. But here in the 90s, we'll still have some occasional complete games here and there if the pitcher's doing well, of course. So anyway, but it's still too early to tell at this point some of those other differences that there may be. Definitely looking forward to seeing this continue. And if you are too, consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any of the action. I usually do a video every week to kind of update where I'm at with these projects. And so every other week you'll see an update maybe on the best of the 1990s tournament, since that's about how often I'll be playing those. With all of that said, I appreciate you watching, and until next time, have a great evening.